Well, I'm joined with Dr. Verchere, who's an investigator with BC Children's Hospital. Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
And you. I'm delighted to be here.
Tell me a little bit about diabetes in children. Does a diagnosis, what does it mean for the child and for the family?
It can be a really devastating, life-changing diagnosis. You go from living a relatively normal life one day to the next day living with the stress and the need to take insulin every day by injection, to check your blood sugar several times a day, and to live with that stress of having low and high blood sugars.
Have we seen it increasing?
It does seem to be on the increase in kids for reasons we don't fully understand. It's an autoimmune disease, and all autoimmune diseases seem to be on the rise.
You know, we've certainly seen a lot of publicity around more about diabetes 2. Instead, 1, I think a lot of people like myself just sort of assume that it's something that people genetically are born with. Is that accurate?
You inherit a risk, so genes are definitely involved, but for both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, type 1, the autoimmune form, that's the form we see mostly here. There's some sort of environmental trigger, so genes cannot explain the entire disease.
Give me some sense about improvements that have been made in the treatment, or I guess the care of diabetes in the last decade.
So we've had discoveries here that have gone to clinical trials in immune therapies, but I think one area where there's been incredible advances that have changed the lives of children and their families is technology, new insulins, pumps, continual glucose monitoring.
I think for so many mums, I'm sure, and dads, it's sort of the whole idea of a small child having to deal with some of these sort of physical treatments that have to happen, pain management, sort of also, you know, handling it at school. How do you answer those kinds of questions? How do you sort of allay the fears of parents when they're beginning this kind of journey?
Well, it is an incredible stress, and I think one of the great things about Children's Hospital is there's this support team that goes beyond just the physicians who, you know, teach them how to take their insulin and check their blood sugars. There's diabetes educators, nurses, and incredible support while there's research going on right next door.
So at this point, you have an extensive team of 100 researchers working every day in the diabetes lab at this hospital. How vital is having this team right here on this site?
Yeah, it's an incredible place to do research. First, we're able to draw outstanding researchers from around the world, scientists, clinicians, students, fellows. But here at the hospital, we're able to study, for example, blood samples from kids, even on the day they're diagnosed, a drop of blood, take it across the street into the research labs and try to probe that blood, those cells, to try to understand the causes of type 1 diabetes.
So this is something that obviously is going to benefit families here.
Oh, I have no doubt. I think research has already started to change the lives for children and their families living with type 1 diabetes, and our goal is to reach that ultimate goal of a cure.
Now, what excites you about the future? You've touched on a few things, but really, what's the future of diabetes research?
We have incredible studies going on in here, and I think one exciting area. So research has already brought new technologies, as I've said, better pumps and continual glucose monitoring. One area that's a really active area of research here is in trying to understand how the insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreas work, why they're destroyed in type 1 diabetes, and how we might replace them. Could we genetically engineer stem cells, for example, to make better insulin-producing cells to transplant them into kids with type 1 diabetes and then get them off insulin? Because even though there's technologies which help them, they still have to take insulin every day.
Thank you, Dr. Verchere, for spending some time with us. Important work going on here at BC Children's Hospital.
My pleasure.
Hi, I'm Avery. I'm a heart patient and BC Children's Hospital 2019 champion child. Thank you for supporting Miracle Weekend and helping kids like me.